It's News Talk 580, 1059 KMJ. Welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show. This is attorney Marc Kapetan, your host. Today's show is brought to you by the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm, serving the Central Valley since 1995. If you or anybody you know has been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, give us a call at 559-498-8000. Or if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, call us 559-498-8000. Kapetan Brothers. Kapetan Brothers. We are the Valley's law firm. Folks, this is the second part of a show that we played last Saturday. It is the same day recording with Rachel Baskin, Deputy District Attorney, former paralegal at Kapetan Brothers, and a domestic violence survivor. Let me recap a little bit. It is going to be a bit graphic, folks, especially today. This is a very intimate look at domestic violence from a survivor and a good friend. She is now a colleague in the fact that she is a district attorney, and we see each other in court, although I don't think we ever go up against each other in court, do we, Rachel?
I don't think so. A few times. But
oh, maybe we have.
Just DUIs.
Yeah, you don't have to disqualify yourself as a district attorney on my cases. Yeah. Listen, she was the right-hand support of the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm for nearly 9 years, but more significantly, she is the embodiment of the survivor of domestic violence. Her story is, as I stated when I went to tears on the last show, one of tragedy to triumph. From being the victim of one of the most horrific cases of domestic violence you may ever hear about, to now, after many years of strong determination and hard work at San Joaquin College of Law, becoming a deputy district attorney herself, representing victims of crime in Fresno County. She now works under Lisa Smith-Camp, the person who basically prosecuted her abuser, which was her ex-husband. It's a story of triumph that encompasses everything about the human condition: the will to live, the power to overcome, and yes, pure evil and depravity of man. My brother Peter and I shared 9 years with her and her baby girl. We shared, who we called during the break here. We shared many stories, many tears, and yes, odd as I said on the first show, as it may seem, and inappropriate as it may seem, many laughs, and including laughs about this case. We had times, right, Rachel, that we
Yes.
laughed about this case. So welcome, Rachel Baskin, District Attorney.
Thank you.
Yeah. Rachel, thanks for sticking with us for this second hour, the first one being last week. We shared many laughs. Listen, you were a victim. Your ex-husband was a former Marine.
Yes.
He attempted to murder you. And folks, I'm not going to be, it's going to be a bit tough. He attempted to murder you, your brother, and your mother on July 16th of 2009. But at times we've had, I got to say, laughs about it.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's kind of the process of healing, and it's also the way that I was raised. You know, bad things happen. You get up, you dust yourself off, and you move on.
Well, that may be the understatement of the year here, folks, because bad things happen. Yeah. I mean, I remember at one point you go, "It's the anniversary of my almost death."
Yeah.
And you sort of do that sort of every year. In fact, I think one year,
last year, I actually forgot this year.
You forgot? Oh, yes. Really?
Yes. I think I was so busy with work and being a single mom and going with the flow that I didn't even realize until it was like the end of the day. And I thought, that's different.
I'll tell you, I remember the year that the end of the day occurred, and I realized I had forgot the death of my mother, when she had died.
Yeah.
And it was her birthday, right? Or the day of her birth, basically. And it's one of those things where you sort of tell yourself, wow, I guess time really does heal all. It does life goes on.
Yeah.
But we did celebrate some of those, and with I think I bought cupcakes, right? Red velvet cupcakes, right? Oh, to represent the blood, folks. This is not going to be pretty. I'll tell you, we're joking around right now, and I've known Rachel for now at least 10 years, and we've had a lot of jokes about it, but. We're going to go back to the day of the incident.
Yes.
You have described on the past show last Saturday that your ex-husband showed up in a mask as if he was going to burglarize the family, holding a pistol to your forehead, and he is now gone to have his last moment because he says he's going to kill himself, although that doesn't appear to what it's going to be. He wants to see his child during this custody battle that you had. A very, very controlling husband, and you are now in the living room, and there's you, your mother, and your brother. And what happens?
So after he brought us back to the living room area, he sets us all down on the couch, and it was me, my brother was in the middle, and my mom was on the end. And he's rambling, he's saying he is going to kill himself and wanted my brother to write a suicide note, or I guess the property that he wanted to be dispersed, which like his motorcycle and
right.
He gets his life insurance, odd things,
right.
And in between that time, he was on the other side of the love seat. So we had a couch and a love seat. He's on the other side of that, and he starts going through, and he's messing with the gun at this point. And I'm thinking, time is ticking. What's going on? Like, how I'm trying to telepathically talk to my brother and tell him, we need to overcome him. Like, something needs to happen before. You
have no belief at all that he's there to kill himself.
No.
You think he's going to kill you guys.
I think he's going to kill us all.
There's something, and I don't want to reveal what it is, but there's something that we're going to talk about when the trial came out regarding the gun, and the amount of ammunition that he had was very significant.
Yes.
So let's go ahead still, though. And so he's fumbling with the gun.
So he's fumbling with the gun. He's saying that he carved out his initials in the bullets, and then he starts going into why he picked a 22, and he wants us to know why he picked a 22. And I'm like, I don't know the difference between any guns.
Yeah. A 22 is known to basically, the bullet is known to stay inside the skull and bounce around in the skull, and it was always used to counter his evidence that he's going to kill himself. It was always used to assassinate people, basically.
Yes. And he said that, he said that he picked that caliber because it is known to bounce around in the body. And so little did I know he's fumbling with the gun, and he's loading it, I guess, or maybe checking it. I'm not sure. And then he ends up finishing, and he walks around the love seat, and he's now facing me at this time, and he's walking up towards me. He grabs a pillow off of the love seat, and he's telling my brother, turn up the TV. And so I'm thinking, he's definitely going to shoot me. This is about to go down. And so I'm thinking, I'm looking for weapons. I mean, my heart is pounding out of my chest. I felt like I'm going to have a heart attack.
Right.
I'm going to throw up. But then at the same time, everything was moving so slow that it was like so slow where I could focus my thoughts and like center my thoughts. It was the weirdest dynamic. And so he grabs the pillow and he puts the pillow up to his head, and he's kind of fumbling with the gun, but he never points the gun directly at his head. He points it upwards in the pillow.
Wow.
And then he takes, with his left hand, he takes the pillow down as he's holding the gun in his right hand, and he comes down, and I hear the gun go off, and I immediately feel a burning sensation on my head, and I feel a ringing in my ear. I hear a ringing in my ear, and I can feel a burning sensation, and I heard the gun, him shoot the gun. And I grab my ear, and I look at my hand, and my hand's covered in blood, and he actually shot me in the head, but he grazed my scalp, and so I have a scar that goes kind of in between, like around my ear. Almost.
Really? So
Yes.
It makes an arcing curve
Yes.
around your ear.
Yeah, so I guess when I heard it, I I flinched down, and so in the process of it hitting me and turning down, that's what created the curve. But
a bullet can curve around the skin like that, so it likely wasn't you decking down, but you saw it to be a purposeful move that he held the pillow in front of him, put the gun in it like it's going to use it as a silencer, and shoot.
Yes.
And now, listen, one of these things that and I hate to say it, that we joke around about is that this guy was a trained Marine.
Yes, he was in the Marines for almost 9 years. So
yet he shoots you point blank and misses.
Yes.
Basically grazes you.
Yeah. So looking back now, obviously, if he was, an inch closer, more centered, he would have. It would have went right in my head, and I probably wouldn't.
We're on with Rachel Baskin. She's a domestic violence survivor, and she's also one of the newest deputy district attorneys of Fresno County. Proud to have her. We'll be right back on the Marc Kapetan Show. This is KMJ. It's News Talk 580 1059 KMJ. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. Folks, listen, I want to ask you guys a favor. If you guys have been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, I want you to call your local attorney. Do not call these LA and San Francisco attorneys. I've taught you the term. We say they have cappers that come and try to steal the clients from your local attorney, and we all know that your local attorney knows best. They know the DAs, like Rachel Baskin here. They know the judges. They know the system. So if you've been injured in an auto accident, or if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, call the Kapetan Brothers or your local attorney. Kapetan Brothers, 559-498-8000. Listen, we want to get right back into it with Rachel Baskin. She's a deputy district attorney down at Fresno County District Attorney's Office. She's also a survivor of domestic violence, an extreme case of domestic violence. And she's the former paralegal of the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm, right?
Yes, I am.
The best job ever. Okay, listen, you're in the middle of discussing the incident on July 16th, 2009, where there was an attempted murder. You've just been shot by your ex-husband, the former Marine, who has the worst aim ever, and grazes your ear. You're now shot in the ear, and you look at him and you say, what?
Can I say this on the radio?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can.
Well, immediately my first reaction was, you fucking shot me. And as I'm grabbing my head and I'm like, you fucking shot me, he looks at me, and I think he was in shock. I think he thought that his aim was going to go where he intended it to go. And so now, knowing what I know now, and he only had 3 bullets in that gun.
Right.
I think now looking back, that's why he had that look on his face.
Oh
crap.
So we didn't reveal it last time, but basically when the evidence comes out at trial, we find out that he only put 3 bullets in his gun. You have you, your mother, and your brother that are there, and it looks like an obvious assassination. So you think he was surprised because he's now like, what do I do? We only have 2 bullets.
Yes. So now looking back, that's what I see. But when I looked at him, he looked as I'm telling him, you shot me, and I'm just dismayed that this is actually going down. Right. And I look at him, and he's pissed. He's visibly pissed off, and he tells me, it barely grazed you.
That was that was don't complain. Response. It barely grazed you.
It barely grazed you, and he's pissed off at this point. And now, looking back, or looking forward, I think that was one. Another
moment, basically, of control.
Yes.
Like, don't be whiny. Well, in fact, you even said it on last Saturday, basically, that there's times where, don't whine, don't complain, etc.
You're fine.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Do you... this may sound strange, but at some level, do you sit there and go back into that mode of victim and say, oh, okay, yeah, you barely grazed me, or...
I think at that point, things started escalating quickly.
Okay.
Because right after he shot me, he goes up to my brother who was sitting right next to me, And within a matter of seconds, he points the gun directly to my brother's left side of his forehead, and he shoots him point blank. And at that moment, I saw what I believe to be part of his brain or skull. I saw stuff come out of my brother's head, and I see my brother slump over. And the blood drawing down. So,
and folks, I'm telling you right now, we're going to try not to go into tears, because I've had a lot, and the reason why we're not right now is because we've had a lot of discussions about this. This is the first time it's coming out over the air like this, but your brother slumps down, you immediately think, okay, he's
I think
dead.
He's dead.
There's going to be a bit of a story to that too. What happens next?
So after I see my brother slump over, I guess he ditched the gun and went to the knife that he was holding, and he goes directly for my mom, who was at the end of the couch.
So he doesn't use the third bullet, basically.
He doesn't use the third bullet, not that I can hear or see at that point. And he ended up not using it. I don't know if he lost it or just tossed it and thought that maybe he would have a better result if he went with the knife, which he almost did. But as he's attacking my mom, she's screaming and yelling and fighting him off, and my brother slumped over on the couch next to her, and I run. My first thought is, I need to call the cops. I need to get help and get my family out of here. So I run back to the bathroom and I grab my phone, and he sees me or hears me run off. And so I'm trying to call 911, but back in the day, it was the BlackBerry phone.
Yeah. That you described on the last occasion on the last show that you had earlier tried to go to your phone in the bathroom, and he had pulled you out of there. So you're now going to call 911. He's attacking your mom with a knife. Is she being stabbed or injured, or what's going on with your mom?
So he's attempting to stab her. At that time, I guess her statement is that he was trying to stab her in the stomach or the heart. And she just kept blocking, so he ended up stabbing her like in the wrist area. And then he's trying to attack her, but she's kicking him and punching him as he's like leaning over on her.
And mind you, mom is like 105 pounds. She's a very, very frail woman.
Very tiny, very fragile.
Doing whatever she could do to fend this off.
Yes.
You go to the bathroom. You attempt to call 911. Do you get through to 911?
So when I got the phone in the bathroom, by that time he was already yelling down the hallway, and he's telling me, "I swear to God, you better come back here, or I'm going to kill our daughter." And so he ends up. I'm thinking, I have to call 911. I have to get help.
Right.
And so he ends up meeting me at the bathroom. And at that point, I don't know why he didn't see that I had my phone in my hand, because I had it in my hand but by my chest. And he doesn't see that I have it, so he doesn't take it away from me, which is weird. But it was it's dark in the hallway, so I don't know if he ever even noticed.
Right.
And so he ends up telling me, and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll go back in the living room with you. Don't hurt Layla. I'll do whatever you want me to do. And prior to him attacking us, we all tried to tell him, I told him, if you let my mom and brother take our daughter, I'll let you kill me. I'll let you kill me. I'll let you do whatever you want.
Really? Just basically, I'm giving myself up.
Yeah.
You could sacrifice me.
Yes. And so my brother also said the same thing. So my brother's like, goes down the line, and he's like, no.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. So he said, no, you let them go and you can kill me. And then my mom is, so we were all sticking up for each other.
Right.
And that pissed him off even more because I really feel like the dynamics of us willing to die for each other was something that he wasn't prepared for, or he was just evil.
With his selfish, evil nature, he probably just doesn't even comprehend what that means.
Yeah. And so he ends up taking me. So I'm telling him, I'll come back with you. We'll do whatever you want. So we walk down the hallway. He's behind me. We get up to the living room, and the front door's like right in front of me, because that's the way the layout of the house was. And he pulls my hair back, and that's the first cut that he makes with the knife on my throat.
We're going to be right back after this. This is Rachel Baskin, Deputy District Attorney, prosecuting prosecuting people and protecting victims of violent crime right now. Also a former survivor herself. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. It's News Talk 580, 1059 KMJ. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. Folks, I'm going to take this music all the way down and forget about any of the advertising of the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. You know the number, 559-498-8000. We're going to get right back into this with Rachel Baskin. On July 16th, 2009, she was the victim of an attempted murder charge, domestic violence case. She's explaining... Rachel Baskin from the District Attorney's Office, Deputy District Attorney. She's explaining how now her husband has shot her in the head. It's very graphic, folks. Shot her brother point blank in the skull, and is stabbing her mother, and now has pulled you back out of the bathroom where you were trying to call 911 and brought you back into the living room where he's now taken the knife that he was used to stabbing your mother and attempting to slice your throat.
Yes.
Okay. Can't be any more plain language. And I know it's graphic, but if you folks think you see violence on the news and you see murders and stuff, you have no idea what we go through when we're down there at the courthouse, and no idea the depravity and evil of a man. And you're hearing it firsthand from Rachel Baskin, a victim and a survivor. All right, Rachel, what happens next?
So when he made the first cut to my throat, my initial thought was... Honestly, at that time, I didn't feel anything because the adrenaline was going through my body so fast and hard that I didn't feel anything. And obviously, you cut, there's nerves in your neck. And so the first cut goes through, and he tried to go from one ear to the other. But somewhere in there, I'm thinking of this plan. The whole time I was planning how to survive, how to get my family out, how to call cops, how to convince him not to do what he was going to do.
I remember you telling me when we were at the Kapetan Brothers, at our offices, that your whole thing was, I already know that I'm going to die. Yeah. That's a given.
Yeah.
So I have to stall. I have to do whatever I can to make sure that as I'm being killed, that my family could get out of this thing. And you already think that your brother's dead. He's already been shot in the head. Yeah. Okay.
So I end up dropping down to the floor because in my head I'm thinking, play dead. And so I drop to the floor like I'm dead. I let all the weight out of my body and I drop to the floor, and at that time, we're in the living room, so my mom is there. My brother's still slumped over the couch, but my mom is still on the couch, and she's, yelling, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And he goes back to her. So I think he thought that I was dead, because I played dead.
He has two down, and now one to go, basically.
Yeah. So he goes back to my mom, but he didn't know that I had my phone. So unfortunately, I'm bleeding all over the place. My hands are bleeding, my hand from the cut initially. Mm-hmm. My throat's bleeding. It's gushing blood. And I had a BlackBerry phone, which is tiny letters, tiny anything. Right. So I call 911, and I don't even put the phone up to my ear. I just know, okay, if it's a cell phone, it goes to like CHP or something. So they don't have the exact location. So I immediately am like, okay, I just need to say my address. So then I repeatedly just start saying my address, saying my address, saying my address. And then that's when my ex-husband stops with my mom, and he comes back to me. And at that point, I did reach 911 because the whole thing is recorded.
Which you heard at the trial.
I did, yeah. And so at that point, I'm over by the love seat on the floor, and he gets on top of me, and he is on top of me to the point where he's holding my neck to the floor, but in an upwards motion.
So he's pushing up on your chin, to make more room.
And so he slices another slice in my neck, and he's sawing, basically. And then he gets to the other side of the neck, and meanwhile, I'm in the 911 call. You can even hear it. I'm just begging him. I'm begging him, please stop, please stop, please stop.
Yeah.
And he's telling me, now I'm going to have to fucking cut you. And that's something I remember from the trial that's still traumatic, because he realized that the bullet didn't work, so now he's going to have to cut me and kill me that way. And so he's sawing on my neck, and repeatedly, I taste blood. It tastes like pennies in my mouth.
Yeah.
And so I can hear my airways. I'm like, as I'm yelling and begging him to stop, I can hear my airways. And so I'm thinking, well, this is it. He's about to cut my head off. And so
you're looking for a moment, basically, of realization,
something,
compassion, something. This is my ex-husband. What are you doing?
The mother
Stop.
of your child. This is the person you said you loved, and nothing. He had no soul in his eyes. That's the
you
best way
remember seeing that.
Oh yeah, his eyes were just black. There was nothing left of him, and so that's when I knew I'm dead. And so my only thought was, from trying to learn anatomy, is that he's getting close to my jugular. I'm gonna bleed out if he gets to that. And so for some reason I thought, and at this time I can't feel any pain. So that's the weird part. I can taste the blood. I can taste it tasted like pennies in my mouth. I can hear my airways, but I'm not
You don't
dying.
feel anything.
I don't feel any pain.
Wow.
And so I go and I'm trying to wiggle out of his grip, and he's on top of me, and he was bigger. He was 185 pounds or 190. I was like $120. So, and so he's overpowering me, and he has the advantage. And so I'm wiggling, and I was able to take my right hand and wiggle just enough to get in between the blade of the knife and my neck. And I grabbed the blade with my hand, with my fingers, cutting all of my tendons. And I ended up grabbing the blade from him. I was able to pick him up off of me and the blade, holding the blade of the knife, and I was able to get him off of me enough where I could wiggle in to get my legs to kick him off of me.
You literally overpower him. You have enough adrenaline and strength left for the will to live that you fight him off. In the meantime, cutting your fingers to where you have paralysis in your fingers. They're permanently deformed, basically. So he's now off of you, or he's still on top of you somewhat?
So at that time, I kicked him off of me. And then my thought is, I feel like the attack's been going on for like an hour by this time, which it really hadn't. It maybe was 15, 20 minutes. And so I'm thinking, where are the cops? I don't hear any cops, so I'm thinking maybe my call didn't go through. So my immediate thing was, I feel like I've blocked out a lot of it because I know the attack went on longer. There was another attack in the bathroom, but I don't remember that. I just remember laying on the floor, but I don't remember. So it was basically a back and forth between him attacking my mom and him attacking me, him attacking my mom.
But something sort of miraculous and stunning occurs that with your brother, who becomes a hero in this case.
Yes. So I went. My final attempt of calling the cops, I end up running to my brother's room. At one of the times that he was attacking my mom, and I go to my brother's room. I grab his cell phone, and I remember counting the seconds before he would figure out that I was gone and would be calling me back or coming to attack me again. And so I'm counting the seconds as I'm trying to dial 911, and I hear like this commotion in the living room. And so I look down the hallway because you could kind of see through the living room. And I look down the hallway and I see my brother coming over the love seat, and my ex-husband was right there, and he overpowers my ex-husband, takes him down to the ground, and I'm thinking my brother was dead already.
Right.
And so I see him take my ex-husband down to the ground, and he's holding him there, and I look up and I see my mom running out the front door, and I'm thinking this is my only chance to grab my daughter and get her out of this house. So I run all the way back down to the hallway, I snatched her out of her crib, and mind you, I'm covered in blood. There was no blood in my bedroom.
Right.
That's how fast I ran.
Oh, wow.
And so I snatched her up. There was I didn't leak blood anywhere. I grabbed her.
The somewhat, and because I know we're ready to be in tears, you and I right now, the somewhat significant funny part of it, folks, again, is that your brother, as he's overpowering, now he's just been shot in the head. Yeah. He's permanently blind in that eye because of it, right?
Yes.
As he's shot in the head, and some brain damage, etc. As he's shot in the head, he overpowers your ex-husband and chokes him out.
Yes.
To where your ex-husband completely passes out, but again, like I like to tease your brother in the movies, you keep choking, you don't stop. Right. He actually stopped, and as you're running out into the street, bleeding with your baby, your ex-husband runs out the door and gets away.
So he ended up. My mom was already out at that time. I ran to grab my daughter. My brother was holding him down. And then once my brother saw me and my daughter leave, then he got up and he walked out. So he goes to the neighbor's house. My mom, at that time, I didn't know where she was. And I run to the street, and I had a passerby pick me up in the middle of the street.
We'll be right back with Rachel Baskin. She's a deputy district attorney, and she's also a survivor of domestic violence. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. We're going to get right back into it with Rachel Baskin from the Deputy District Attorney down at the Fresno County District Attorney's Office. Rachel, we are talking about the attempted murder of you and your family by the hands of your ex-husband on July 16th, 2009.
Yes.
You're running out into the streets now. You're holding your baby. You've been sliced open multiple times on your neck. My understanding that a passerby picked you up.
Yes.
Do you remember that interaction?
I do. I remember running out with my daughter. And that time I'm yelling for help. My airways were severed. So anytime I would yell, blood was gushing out. So my daughter was also covered in blood. So it looked like she had been injured as well.
Right.
And I remember running out, and I go to the main street, and I remember at least 2 cars had passed me, bloodied.
Right.
Which I don't blame them.
Do you know the guy who pulled you over?
I do. He ended up testifying at the trial.
Wow.
And so finally, after the 2 cars passed me by, I'm thinking, I'm going to stand in the middle of the road and somebody has to stop. So the very next car I saw, I stood in the middle of the road, and that was a very sweet, kind gentleman who stopped his car and ended up picking me up, and he saw my ex-husband behind me down the street at that moment. And so when I told him what's going on, he sees my ex-husband behind me, and he tells me, get in the car. And so I jump in.
Oh, so your ex-husband was still chasing after you, basically.
He wasn't chasing, but he had walked out into the street, and so he was visible to
you get airlifted. I understand that the first time that you really felt pain was while you were in the helicopter.
Yeah. So this incident happened in Reedley. I got flown in. I think they sent me to somewhere in Dinuba, and so they were going to airlift me. So I got airlifted to Community Regional Medical Center, and I remember I didn't feel the pain until the pain in my hand came, and that was as we were about to land at CRMC.
You said it was excruciating.
And it was the worst pain I think I've ever felt.
Do you remember seeing how long were you in the hospital?
I was in the hospital, I believe, 6 days.
You have a tracheotomy, right?
Yeah, I had a tracheotomy. Apparently, I had 2 blood transfusions, and they put me in a medically induced coma because I was fighting. So I was still reliving it.
Reliving it, right? Yeah. The fear of it. The scars, even though it took me many months, I never noticed it. One day you pointed it out at our office when you were working at our office. The scars are very visible.
Yeah.
The tracheotomy scar is visible also.
Yes.
Do you talk about the reliving it while you're in the hospital? Do you relive it now? Do you still have the fear? Do you wake up sometimes at night?
Not so much anymore. When the trial was going on, it took 3.5 years to go from the date of the incident to actually going to trial in this case. And during that time, he was housed at Fresno County Jail. So he was very close to, me. And so I would wake up any little noise. I had to have a fan on or something because if I heard a noise outside, I was dropping to the ground and crawling.
To this day?
Yes.
I mean,
not so much. It has dissipated over time. I mean, this is 13 years ago, and so but
it may dissipate over time. Yeah. But I mean, I could see it in you right now. There's whether it's instinctual or whatever. You're very emotional. Probably the most emotional that you've been throughout this interview right now. There's got to be still a constant fear, right? Oh
yeah, and my fear is mostly connected to whether or not he's going to get out and try to come back at me or my family. And that's my main concern is my family.
And the crappy thing about it is with California law and all you folks out there who vote, for these liberal laws when it comes to crime, he's eligible for parole when?
I believe he's eligible in 2032. And so he got sentenced on 77 years to life. But because he was 5 days shy of his 26th birthday, he's eligible for youth offender.
Right. Which is only a couple years coming up.
That's only 25 years. So he's eligible in, I think, another 10 years, give or take. And that terrifies me.
It does terrify you.
Yes.
You overcome it all.
Yes.
You work at the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm.
Yes.
Which helped train you to go to law school. You finally went to San Joaquin Law School.
Yes.
And you graduated when? And you got your bar card when?
So I graduated in 2019. I went back. I got my paralegal degree after the incident, and then Lisa Smith-Camp encouraged me to go back to school and get my bachelor's and go on to law school. And then she ended up running for DA, and
you supported her, and you were one of her spokespersons. Absolutely, yeah. Yes. You love her.
Yes.
Huh? She's like an aunt to your daughter, right?
Yes.
Getting that, we were there the day that you got your bar card.
Yes.
And when you were sworn in, and I'm ready to get in tears again, so I'm trying not to. Greatest personal achievement for you?
Well, first being a mother,
of course.
And secondly, I think getting my education and making sure that everything that I've ever thought I wasn't capable of, I am.
Absolutely. It really is your personal determination to triumph over tragedy. You do speaking engagements now, right?
Yes.
Representing victims.
Yeah.
Even a violent crime.
Yes.
You see the defense attorney that used to that represented your husband?
I do. I actually have cases with him, and
you have a decent relationship with the guy now, right? Yeah. You understand it's all gray matter when it comes to that kind of stuff. What's your advice for these young ladies out here, or young men who are victims, or who may not know whether they're victims or not?
You know what I believe, which is a great thing, that awareness has become so available. I mean, it's readily out there, even on TikTok, on Instagram. Like, people are talking about it now, and I feel like that didn't happen during the time that I was going through it. And so if you think that something's not right, that's probably you're correct about that. The red flags that you see, it can get a lot worse, and somebody doesn't have to hit you. I wasn't physically abused by him. He didn't black my eyes out and beat me up all the time, but he went from
0 to 100.
0 to 100 is what I call it. And so if you see
it, read up on it, study up on it. It's there. Rachel Baskin from the Fresno County District Attorney's Office, and former paralegal of the Kapetan Brothers, and personal friend of mine, and a survivor. I love you. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
See you next week on the Marc Kapetan Show. This is KMJ.